Thus says the high and lofty one who inhabits eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell on the high and lofty place, and also with the one who has a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble and to revive the heart of the contrite. Please be seated. A reading from the Gospel of John, chapter 11, beginning at the 25th verse. Jesus said to Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. Those who believe in me, even though they die, will live, and everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Here ends the reading of God's holy word. Mr. Squire has a few words to say about today's service.
Good morning. We're changing our order of events a bit. You all remember just a very short time ago, Mr. Mandeville sitting right where Reverend Squire is, and the incredible service we had with our students and the Live Strong celebration. And today we come together without Marc Mandeville. And it's one of the toughest things about being a community is that we are 1,200 students and we're almost 200 faculty and staff, and we are a big group. And when we are such a big group, the world takes place right here amongst us. And we have births, and we have marriages, and we have deaths. And we have lost a truly wonderful human being last Saturday. An individual who always was positive, even in the face of all kinds of adversity. Someone who never complained, always was looking to have fun, to make people happier, to make things better. And I was talking with the lower school students this morning just about my first recollections of Marc Mandeville. We have in common that we are sons of New England, and we root for the team in New England, the Boston Red Sox. And we had been rooting for nothing for so many years. And finally, in 2004, the impossible happened after 86 years, and Marc and I and a few others in this room, including Mr. Bryan and Mr. Morris, reveled in our championship for the Boston Red Sox. But Marc loved the Red Sox. He was passionate about almost everything. He loved his classes. He loved his hockey team. He wasn't the greatest skater in the world, but he loved hockey. He loved being out there. He loved his students. And he epitomized to me what's best about an Episcopal faculty member, someone who is the teacher, is the counselor, is the coach, someone who does all those things well and never complains, who is someone who wants to make everyone else's life better. He lifted us all up. And I am so grateful for the life of Marc Mandeville, a life that is much too short, someone who's taken with us much too early, but someone who brought joy to so many of us, and was such a great example of that indomitable spirit that Gandhi describes. So we're going to hear a little today from some of our students who have put some things together. It's great to see the hockey team wearing their jerseys out there. And I hope that all of you, as you remember Marc Mandeville, and those in ninth grade who really hardly knew the man, can just be thinking about what it is to give to a community, to be graceful. We sung that first hymn, and the word grace is in there, and I think Marc Mandeville, to me, describes what grace is all about. Thanks.
Lance Armstrong is fond of saying that when he got cancer, he began to live, that he discovered how to live in the midst of his cancer. You know, I can't think of anything that was less true about Marc. Marc knew how to live before he had cancer. He loved life. He had a storybook wedding of a woman he loved dearly. He had 3 beautiful kids. He loved to teach. He loved to coach. He loved everything about life. And he loved you guys. And I hope you guys know that. When you go through cancer, you can't teach, because every time you go through chemotherapy, it knocks you out for a week, so you can't have a week of classes and then a week of no classes. It just doesn't work. But Marc was as much a part of this community as anybody. He dove into it. He stayed an advisor. He stayed a coach. I mean, guys, 10 years ago, the Haverford Day pep rallies, when it was just Haverford then, we hadn't thrown AIs, weren't all that good. But, you know, every year, the student body longing to see what Mr. Mandeville had done with the Haverford Day video. He lived life every day to its fullest. I suspect every single one of you has known dozens of people with cancer. I suspect very few of you know, I mean, my mom, my brother died of cancer. Very few of you know people who raised $200,000 the last year of his life in order to save others from cancer. I mean, I know a couple of you know Alex Scott, Alex of Alex Lemonades. That's pretty good company. What an incredible thing to devote yourself and your remaining years to the fullness of life. And he did it in incredibly creative ways. Not all of them work. Some of you know that he loved poker, and honestly, I got to know him around the poker table. Mr. Bryant refers to him as the captain of our poker team. I mean, he got us together, and we laughed unbelievably. And one of the things he wanted to do is he wanted to get together and interact competition between the faculties to raise money for cancer, to have a poker tournament for cancer. That one didn't come off. On the other hand, there's the Mandy Cup. Now, you guys are under 21, so I'm sure you've never heard of beer pong. But in that distant year that someday you will play it, I'll speak for myself. The first time I played beer pong, I guarantee you it was not to raise money for a good cause. That wasn't the purpose of the game. But Mandy took beer pong and turned it into a fundraiser for cancer. I mean, that's creative. He had a wine and cheese party to raise money to solve cancer. He did whatever it took to see, mixing the joys of life, the fun of life, with a good cause. What a great combination. He was a wonderful man. And he still lives. Sorry, the preacher in me has got to get here. I really believe in resurrection. I believe he still lives. One last thing. A couple of us were able to be in the hospital right before he died. And I told him about an hour before he died that the Yankees had won the night before. And Coach Pearsall, who was there, goes, "Bert, you're going to put him in a bad mood." I promised him that his adopted National League team, the Phillies, were going to beat out of the Yankees in the World Series. And I really hope, you know, he grew up a Red Sox fan. He knows what it means to lose. And he'll understand if the Phillies don't beat them. But if the Phillies beat the Yankees in the World Series, he's going to be smiling.
Certainly get a sense from Mr. Zug that Mr. Mandeville was someone who really lifted all of our spirits. I was telling the lower school kids and faculty in their chapel service this morning about one of my greatest memories about him as being an instrument of joy. Because in our utter sadness, we have to remember that very, very important part of him. And we all know of the Haverford AIS video. We all know of his work there. But very, very quickly, one of my great memories is him asking me and the students asking me to be Rocky. And the particular Saturday that we filmed that, I think it took us 8 hours And we had Christian, his son, in the back seat, along with two seniors, Mr. Galeb and Mr. Gadsden, who were doing the actual video. And Mr. Mandeville was driving, and I was there looking as best I could like Rocky. I have never laughed in my entire life as much or as long as I did that day. And it was all about the fact that he could imitate anyone. And there are people in this room, faculty, that he could do incredibly well. And so could the two seniors who were with us. So it was this and me, I could do none of that. But at one point, I wasn't sure because he could do me better than me. And I wasn't sure if I wasn't driving a couple of times as we were making our way through South Philly. I'd jump out of the car, run a little bit, jump back in, and he would be imitating somebody else. I'd be laughing crazy, get out of the car, run a little bit, and that kind of deal. But let's remember that part of him, and that's going to help us with our own sense of loss, our own sense of sadness. And what we need to be doing as a community now is to be supporting one another, as only this community can do, by reaching out to one another. And when I think of Mr. Mandeville, I think always of team. And the middle of that word team is EA, and that is us. So if anyone needs to talk to anyone, your advisors there, if faculty are struggling, help one another. We have our psychologist, I know today, a little bit more than usual. She'll be up in her office on the second floor of middle school. Any way that we can support and be with one another, I think, is the important thing to do. Got an email from someone wanting to know if you could wear your hockey shirts at the service on Saturday, and Mrs. Mandeville, Mrs. Werner said that was a terrific idea to do that. If you want to sit as a team, that's fine. She also added that those of us who did Live Strong may want to come in our yellow shirts or our Empower shirts, and that's fine too, to celebrate his life. And speaking of team, we think also, first of all, of his hockey team, and Brad is here as captain of the team to share some of his thoughts with us, and that'll be followed by me bringing Emily up here for a moment.